waiting for a quorum.
We're just checking to see if we have a third board member on Zoom. Otherwise, we don't have a quorum. So we'll give it a few minutes. It's already 5. I'll give it 5 more minutes.
In class, we're supposed to give a professor 15 minutes. But this is not what that is it?
Such a no. I thought it was tomorrow.
Not come either.
But if he's at home, he can come. He just answered me.
Oh.
Ken, thought it was tomorrow. Crystal's got her fingers and toes crossed.
Okay, so do you.
Me 3.
So far, this is a no on here.
How long do they usually wait? I was thinking 10 minutes.
Yeah. We know what coming after.
Oh. You're good, 5:45. He'll be here in 15 minutes.
Do we have Cameron?
No.
Should we just cancel?
Yeah.
He's on.
No, it's not.
He's not on Zoom.
Hold on. Cameron, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
We didn't form until you got on, so we were waiting.
All right. So we now have a quorum and the fourth commissioner will be arriving shortly. So, welcome to the work meeting for the Virgin Town Planning Commission. We are starting our meeting at 5:38. And we make sure the microphone is on. Do we need?
It helps a little bit.
Yeah. All right. First item on our agenda is, chapter 16. Cameron, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Thank you. Lee, do you want to go over the resolution changes to this? Those are the only ones we need to discuss.
Okay, yes.
And reference line numbers.
Okay. Every single one, I changed one of the whereases.
I see that.
I changed the word acceptable to welcomed on line 42. I think Larry didn't quite like where the tone was.
Chapter 16.
Am I in the right?
No, this is chapter 16.
16.
Limited impact.
Yeah, I know, I find 16 in the title and then,
Everything's 16.
yeah.
16. You want to look at mine?
Well, what were you looking at?
I have this one.
Okay, yes, I added the words and time consuming on line 27. I said that, because I feel like we're doing two things, we're trying to make this easy to do, but we're also trying to be transparent. And, so I added, whereas the town nevertheless wishes to be as transparent as possible in the approval of commercial uses, which an appearance on a regular agenda of the Planning and Zoning Commission would accomplish. And
Changes in ownership.
yeah, whereas on line 35, added that that permitted uses are limited and limit our ability to ensure that they survive changes in ownership. 38, I added that we now have an officer, we all now have a director of community development, which isn't true today, but I think it will be tomorrow.
Monday.
Oh, Monday. Okay.
And then section 1.
In section 1, I added lines 57 and 58. Many or all of the uses that this proposes to make conditional may be found by the Director of Community Development to qualify for a low impact CUP. That I think would address the other thing that Larry was saying, and you might have mentioned it, Karen, I can't remember, that potentially this low impact one could require 2 visits to the planning commission because it first needs to qualify as a low impact CUP. So if that job is done by the director of community development, they can just walk into the office and get that done. And then it will just be one quick item on the planning commission.
I think the next change is on 124, where you put in director of community development. Next changes on line 1 and 24.
24?
124.
120. Oh, yeah, director of community development. And I added the paragraph, the commission shall make every effort to take a final vote at its first regular meeting following the receipt of a complete application. If more information is required, the commission may condition the decision upon satisfactory receipt by the director of community development of required documentation. Normally, I don't like that, but if it's a low impact one and that's what this is applying to, I think that's okay. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Any comments so far? Now we go down to 178.
And 172,
Oh, I'm sorry.
it's okay.
Who's 172? Oh, I think staff application completeness review. Oh, that's before.
172 in my
Let me
version.
look up the PDF.
Oh, is this a PDF?
I'm gonna check. I don't think I put in the PDF.
Anyway, it says a complete application for a low impact CUP may be forwarded immediately to the Planning and Zoning Commission for final approval if the Director of Community Development finds in writing the following circumstances. So that gives the job to him of making these findings to see whether or not it qualifies as low impact. So add a little bit of language that made it clearer. It used to say as compared to permitted uses in the zone, now it says as compared to previous use of the subject property if applicable and other permitted uses in the zone. The use is blah, blah, blah. Line 183, the use will not create substantial additional traffic. Anything might create additional traffic, but it's substantial. The use will not create substantial additional noise or odors. And D, unless the use will be served by an approved public or independent sewer system, implementation of the use will not cause greater septic or water supply impact than what ERC for. Okay, it's just a language thing. Then on.
You added the word itself,
Yeah, I wanted
just to
to
clarify.
make it clear that that the application for a low impact, for the CUP doesn't require a public hearing or DRC review, but there might be other aspects of it, like if they're building some giant building or something that requires DRC review, then. But it's this application for the low impact CUP does not require a public hearing.
And there's no changes to the standard CUP, that's the same as current.
Sorry, I can't.
And there's no changes to the standard CUP application process, correct? I think we reviewed that.
I don't think there's, I just added the director of community development.
So under 2, standard CUP application, and then 3, staff application completeness review. Is that an area where the town position, community development would also play a role for completeness, or is that totally up to clerk and something?
I think that has a specific process.
Yeah, and then it goes.
Yeah, but it's pretty, I was gonna say it's pretty clear in the Utah code, but it's actually pretty muddy in the Utah code, but it's to be interpreted, I guess.
Okay.
Um,
And then I see that inspections and investigations is going under purview of director of community development.
I'm sorry. 2 weeks from now, I will have
Oh,
my,
I'm so sorry. Let me get closer to the mic.
2 weeks from now, I'll have
Mr. Baycox will probably appreciate that as well.
my hearing aids.
Okay.
Okay. It's a teacher.
I dropped him.
Okay,
So I didn't know what you were just talking about.
so I was just looking at the addition of director of community development under 16.18 inspections and investigations. It's just. Okay, so the code compliance officer, zoning administrator, or delegate, but the person who will direct those complaints is the director of community development.
No. It's just that,
Or
it's
as a
one of the
director.
people that can,
Got it. I just saw the order. My apologies. And then the standards CUP, I do not believe has changed.
no,
Nothing new has changed in the next section. That's it.
that's it.
I'm good with those changes and ready to send this one on to a meeting vote. I'm ready to put this one up for a vote in October.
Okay.
Did I have my pen back on? Because I'm gonna write on that. So that I know which one is. Karen, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yes, I have some questions.
Sure.
So we've defined the what would cause a use to be considered low impact conditional versus regular conditional.
Yes.
And one of those part of that definition was significantly increases traffic or does not significantly increase traffic in this case. But how is that measured? Right? How do we measure whether that is going to significantly increase traffic? Does that mean the applicant has to provide a traffic study showing the projected traffic volume to include times? Like how is that measured? How is that just not an arbitrary distinction?
I understand the question. I think it would be good to have an application form for it that would ask about operating hours,
Number of cars.
number of cars, deliveries, all that sort of thing, what they expect to happen. And then there is
So let me ask you this then. We're going to talk about all that. One of the items listed here that you're tentatively considering most likely to be low impact is restaurants. It's kind of the one we've focused on the most. But if we look at balcony one, I think there's a good argument that that significantly increases traffic, especially in the evening hours. So I like that
Okay,
automatically takes a restaurant out of there. I mean, if balcony one does, then every other restaurant would.
okay, but it's as compared to other uses that are allowed in the zone.
And
So,
what are some of those other uses that we're comparing it to?
oh,
The commercial uses.
whatever is listed there in commercial or in the zone that they're in.
I know, but what I'm saying is we've created a standard by which we're measuring high impact use, but we're not having a good comparison. Right? There's not a good comparison. In my opinion, there's no real uses that are currently permitted. There was at one time, but there's no real uses now currently permitted in the commercial zone that do have a significant increase in traffic. I would think that you would disagree with that. Am I wrong?
No, I don't disagree with you. I think it would be much better to have a list of standards and to kind of design an application and ask all these questions. And you're right, as compared to other things in the zone, that's not good enough because, yeah, a restaurant is gonna create more traffic than almost anything, I guess.
That's probably the highest. I mean, depending on size, obviously, but like you could argue that a community center may produce more traffic depending on the size of the community center, depending on what its function was, what kind of events and classes it's going to be holding and how it's going to be operated. I mean, you could say that one maybe, but
Right, so
that's
this,
what
it might work for a small restaurant better than it does for a large restaurant, and I don't know, maybe that's how it should be, but still, you have a point that there should be a better way to measure it. And,
Well,
go ahead.
I would say I would consider George's restaurant fairly small. It doesn't have huge seating capacity. It's only open for dinner. Like it's not a huge restaurant by any means, not in comparison to, any restaurant in St. George. I guess it would probably be average sized if you compared it to Springdale's restaurants, but if you compared it to St. George's is small.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that, but, I mean, I would consider it relative to the size of the town, and, so St. George is quite a bit bigger than we are.
The language on traffic for the standard conditional use is pretty non-specific as well.
Right, so I mean, I think that, I imagine that there are tables somewhere that give the impacts of various uses. And that our new town manager will have those tables, but I might be dreaming. But I think that it would be good to find some kind of a table or.
It also depends on, where the traffic flows into, is it in an existing neighborhood? Is it
Well,
off of
yeah.
the highway?
I mean, if it's off the highway and it has a good entrance and it isn't interfering with another neighborhood.
And then the other question is too, is where are you gonna measure this traffic increase at, right? So, you know, if we're measuring it at the 9, no business is going to significantly increase traffic in Divergent. Um,
Well,
if you, so if a business if a business say like, Buffalo Trails, their restaurant that has direct access from the 9, there is no significant increase in volume of traffic, no matter what building you put there, no matter
Well-
how big, how small, because the volume of traffic is the same.
Right, it would increase traffic on the
9,
highway,
but that's not what it says.
yeah, it's about trips per day per business.
As compared to the previous use of the subject property, if applicable, and other permitted uses in the zone. Compared to
I-
the-
I agree with you that it's about trips per day, right? So trips per day per whatever. But the code that you're writing says significant increase in traffic. Even if you have 4 trips a day with a truck coming into that building, and you're measuring that traffic off the 9 because there's no other access there, 4 trucks a day is not significantly increasing the traffic on the 9.
Yeah,
Now you could argue, like,
That's not.
if if you look at George's restaurant, his access is off that road. So you could say, we want to measure the increase of traffic turning onto, what is that, like 700, 600? We want to measure the increase in traffic turning down 600. So now you're seeing an increase in traffic down 600, or you could say down Sheepsbridge Road for the gas station. So we're seeing an increase of traffic on Sheepsbridge Road because of the gas station. But if it's Buffalo Trails and there's no road that they're taking other than Utah 9, and then pulling right into their parking lot, there's no significant increase in traffic. Does that make
Well,
sense?
I don't know that you're reading the newest version.
Oh.
Can you read, does it not say significant increase, no
No.
significant increase in traffic? That's one of the descriptors to make it a light duty or an easy conditional use permit.
The use will not create substantial additional traffic, on-street parking, occupancy, or outdoor storage of materials, tools, or equipment.
Right.
Right.
I'm
So
focusing on the traffic portion of that.
I understand, you're right that it wouldn't, it's irrelevant as far as the highway goes. But
That's
I'm
not what
talking
it
about
says.
traffic.
Read 2. As compared to previous use of subject property, if applicable, and other permitted uses in the zone. So comparing to other uses in the zone.
Correct. I agree with you there. But again, no matter the size of Buffalo Trails, you're comparing 0 increase of traffic to 0 increase of traffic, despite the size.
Which means that will not be a disqualifying issue. If it's on a side street and there's a potential problem in the number of people coming in and out to go to the driveway of this business, that would be a different story. That might be a problem.
Okay, so then you're saying that the traffic, if you're saying that basically if the business has access directly off SR9 and not through any ancillary or other streets, then that, would just not apply. That would be a, no, it doesn't.
So what if we said, unless the use is to be accessed, by some other street than SR9, the use will not create substantial blah, blah, blah.
That still doesn't. Let me use an extreme example that would never come to fruition here because of the uses in the commercial zone. But you could say Zion White Bison, where I work, just full disclosure, does not increase traffic at all. But it does because they needed a turning lane. So
Well, that's true.
there's got to be a different way to indicate traffic besides a simple increase.
Okay,
There has to be a different way to calculate that. Because what if that business needs a turning lane?
what if, we said according to,
So that would be a reason why they should go to DRC to determine if they need a turning lane. So either there has to be a different standard there, or these people do need to go to DRC,
or what?
Am-
Sorry.
or they need to go to the DRC.
Right, and some uses will have to, because they will be, having problems with UDOT and all that stuff. We're not addressing that. It's just about zoning. So,
No, this is
Yeah.
about, this isn't about zoning. This is about a certain classification of conditional use.
right. Which is to regulate zoning, but, okay, what would you like to say?
Well, I think that, well, first of all, if you want my complete opinion, I think you let the staff do it all. You let them go to the new town manager guy, you let them go to the DRC, and they work out a conditional use form right there in the staff. You don't even include planning and zoning. That's my honest opinion. But besides that, if they should go to the DRC, because if you are adding turning lanes and stuff to the road, a lot of your citizens are going to think that that's significantly increasing the traffic problem.
Yes, that makes sense.
So you're going to have a lot of pissed off people who don't understand who are misconstruing an increase in traffic with like increase in congestion or something. And then you have upset people.
Okay. So, if they don't, increase traffic to the level that would require UDOT approval. And there. That's per day. Anyway, I hear you. I will see if I can figure out a way to make that work better.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Like,
How are you?
good, late,
We're here now.
hi Cameron.
I think you need experience in that school, which is very kind of him. All right, so I'm gonna, get my copy back. Oh, so I can keep my order here, so I don't have to drive forward crystal crazy. Okay, all right, let me make my note. And next item, I believe, is our K&K zone change. And, we had, in public hearing, 2 people comment on this. Let me pull up my notes from that.
Is that in SharePoint?
I have my hard copy right here. I can drop my summary into the SharePoint folder because I forgot to do that. My apologies. It will just take a second.
Okay.
Okay. SharePoint. And dropping it in now.
Right below Greg Bates. Right on the highway,
Here's the map.
oh. Show them that.
So you know the swap the town made at the old town yard? It's right next to it.
Okay, all right.
And there's been a lot of grading activity there.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I just,
Is it, the new landowner that's doing the grading?
no, it's K&K, and,
Isn't K and K the new landowner?
no, they currently own it.
Who, K&K, yes.
It's, yeah, I don't think it's a new landowner, oh, to my knowledge.
So I'm talking about, this is a piece that was swapped with the town?
No, this is next door to that piece,
Okay,
okay?
got it.
This is just east of that piece.
We had a hearing on it at the last meeting.
Yeah.
You may remember some people talking about, well, Greg Bates in particular, I was concerned about.
Yeah,
this.
Greg Bates, he lives north of the property.
Septic tank and stuff.
He was
Yeah,
very
it's-
concerned about his leach field, and he'd heard there'd been a strip mall going in there, but Mr. Matson Chuck said that that was not accurate.
He said that was not accurate.
Not accurate, but I was a little confused because then he said it's not sold, I'd have to go back and listen carefully, but I thought he said something like there's no plans. at
Do we
this
not
time.
know what's going on there?
No.
No, we know that they want,
He's worried about the impact of noise and dust of construction and the early morning noise of deliveries, because the other thing that's been rumored about going there is a grocery store. And then Mr. Pat Galvis got up and he just firmly believes we have a lot of commercially zoned land that's unused. And, that's his main thing. And then Mr. Matzler stood up and says the goal is to have smaller lots for smaller development. And that makes sense to cluster. He believes it unrealistic to limit uses to residential and agricultural because it's hard to make a profit off of it. He said the intention was to have some 2-story buildings with short setbacks. So I would need, I don't know,
with short setbacks
setbacks.
from the highway.
I am, to be honest, a little concerned about the sheerness of this guidance.
Yeah, I think that needs to be.
And I think
looked at.
we need to make sure Mr. Bates's, septic leach field is not compromised.
Kept
You know,
safe.
because that could be a big expense for him.
No, this would fall under the overlay,
Yes,
which is pending.
yes,
And so there would be pretty limited uses that they could do there.
yeah.
I'm not sure they are aware of that, but good to take a look.
Yes.
So we're discussing this K and K,
Mhm.
and they're the ones that are doing all this excavation.
Yes.
And we don't know what they're doing. We're not allowed to know what they're doing.
Well, all I know is.
How does they get a permit to do it?
They don't have a permit. And we don't necessarily require a permit yet, but that's.
There's an ordinance that's gonna go up maybe next month.
Right.
You have an ordinance that says you have to get a permit to break ground.
No, there used to be, but it's gone. And,
Oh, yeah, and it's like,
Frank has been working
yeah,
on
and
it.
does it come under that other ordinance that's pending that says you have to do that, because it doesn't fall in one of those washes, things like that.
Oh,
So our town engineer doesn't get involved in it when people are moving dirt.
crazy, doesn't it?
It
That way,
seems-
yeah.
No, I'm sorry, it just seems stupid.
Yeah. I agree.
So I wanna know more, I don't know how to find out more.
I want that on for that. It just seems stupid.
Yes. Well, then we have a job to do.
Yeah.
Karen, do you have any thoughts on the K request for a zone change?
I do.
I do, sure.
They're requesting a zone change to commercial. Well, I would always vote no until they tell me what the commercial is going to be. And since there's no ordinance requiring that to even tell us what they're doing there at this point.
And I do believe I saw Mr. Masters speak with Mr. Bates, but I don't know what they spoke about.
I'm gonna say what I always say on the rezone is we have to assume that the most impactful use that's listed in that zone is,
Correct.
could be there, because it could. Even if they did one thing that they decided to do right now, down the road, they could tear it down and do something else. And so, as long as it's listed in the zone, so if the zone allows only, you know, whatever, if the zone allows some, very impactful use, and you don't think it's appropriate there, then one would not want to approve the rezone. Unless conditionally, I guess that can be done, but I'm not sure how that works.
I don't know, I'm just. Oh, I remember one more thing, Mr. Bates was also concerned that there was a plan to put a road on the side near his house. And that he has a road on the back, because he's between, he abuts, Old Homemakers,
Right.
so there's a road there and. And that's another one I gotta drive by and look at carefully.
I mean, somebody can't just decide to put a road somewhere, right? Wouldn't that have to go
Which
through a process?
speaks to Ken's point, you know, like, it sounds like there is some kind of plan. And it's not that, you know, I can't say whether I'm for it or against it because
Right,
I don't know enough.
and I would like to make sure that maybe it would have to be our engineer goes and looks at what's been done, and
Because
there's
there's been a lot, it's not just a house lot that, you know, they're just smoothing it out. There's a lot of excavation of dirt. I don't know what the rock, if they're gonna put rocks supports or anything like that.
Oh.
So we don't know that, but right now it looks
the
sheer,
ordinance does address retaining wall.
yeah. But it looks pretty sheer, and so I kind of hear
His word,
Mr. Bates'
Yeah.
concern. That would be a huge problem, not just for him, but for whatever,
is below it.
what, yeah.
Yes.
So, have to look into that, I think. All right, so our next item is the ordinance and.
I got,
Oh, I'm so
Can
sorry. Yes, Kent and then Karen. Okay.
Cameron, maybe you can help me. But I'm ignorant and really surprised that for some reason we don't have the requirement of a developer or an individual landowner who wants to do excavation work, that we don't have a permit requirement to tell us what he's doing. Can somebody explain to me why we don't have that now, other than, well, they just threw it away?
any type of excavation or land or dirt removal does, there's no need for that to be in the land use ordinance. That should be a municipal code saying, hey, if you are if you are excavating anywhere in the town and you're moving X number of yards or you're disturbing X number, X amount of dirt, then you need to come get a permit. But that's really not a land use issue. That's more of a municipality standard that needs to be addressed by the town council, not, in my opinion, not by the
I know
land,
we used
not
to
by.
have something, is that correct, Lee?
Yeah, there used to be a.
So we used to have requirements for dirt. It was part of the CUP process for, hey, if you're gonna move dirt as part of the CUP process, then yeah, then you'll need to do it. And I think that's still in the CUP process. But
What is
as far
that?
as like for permitted
Standard.
uses, for permitted
Conditions.
uses and other uses, in the town, that really needs to be part of the municipal code, not the land use code. So if there was anything taken out of the land use code, it would have been because that it's not the right place for it. It's not the right place for it. So I would say that's something that town council should work on. And yeah, the town should have standards to, stop, you know, to stop just
There is one in our
bare,
folder.
bare dirt from being blown all over the town, right? That's important. There should be things in place for that. But I still don't think that's a land use thing. And if he's listening, I would encourage him to go to the town and address that with the town, um, and get that. If that isn't part of the municipal code, which I don't know, I haven't studied it, then he needs to work with the town to get that added to the municipal code. So, and then as far as the septic stuff, that should be 15 feet away from the property line. And at 15 feet, there, it's 15 feet for a reason. And the reason is so it does not infiltrate onto your neighbor's property. So there shouldn't be any issue with his sewer. And you can see that dirt that they're moving there is really porous. If there was an issue with the sewer, you would see it. So I wouldn't suspect there is an issue with his sewer, but again, as far as the nuisance, which, yeah, that's a nuisance, that shouldn't be allowed to happen. But I think that's a municipal code thing. And then as far for me, as far for the zone change, you have to consider a zone change as though any use in that zone could be put there, provided that it meets the standards, to include setbacks and all those other things. So, yeah, I don't see any problem for me with a zone change. I mean, to request people to put in their thing, it just really doesn't, because they could just, once they get the zone change, they could change it. I mean, there's nothing holding them to that use. When you consider a zone change, you need to look at all the uses, the surrounding areas, the impact it's going to have, what fits in your code. But having a listed use of what someone's going to do with the property is just not required. I know we often see it because typically in Virgin, when we have a zone change, it's because a property has sold, but that's not necessary, and we shouldn't hold people to that standard.
I just wanted to point out that I think what Greg Bates was saying was that he was worried about it sloughing off, not that, it was contaminating the next property, but that
Yeah.
actually the edge would keep sloughing off until it came onto his land and got closer and closer to his leach field. But anyway.
Right. He was worried about it sloughing off because the water from his leach field would make the ground unstable. Well, if the water from his leach field is reaching the property line, then that's a problem. Now, as far as the slope, that's a different, that's a different area of concern, right? I agree with him on the sheer amount of dirt they've taken out of there. They should be reinforcing that in some way, so
So
nothing ever caves.
I'd like
But
to point
again,
out,
that's a municipal, that should be a municipal code, not a land
correct,
use code.
and there is one about to be adopted, and, we can preview it in our in-process folder under 2025.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, that's great.
So we're
We should
working,
take that to plate to the
they're,
town.
I believe, Rod and Riker are working on that.
Okay.
Okay. All right, next item is the
Last
mayor.
last thing on that, because we kind of addressed his concerns. And then you had oh, his name just slipped my mind, but he got up and he was, he just says we have enough commercial in town. Um, I would just push back a little, saying, yeah, we may have a lot of acreage in commercial in town that's not developed, but those are large blocks. We don't really have any small parcels, like this one would be. We don't really have any small parcels, so I think the fact that size would encourage me to allow it.
Great, thank you. All right, now, does everyone have access to the ordinance, received from the mayor? It's pretty short. It is different than what I was told I would be receiving. And let me pull up my copy. I just gave it to someone. All right, it's an ordinance, amending chapter 4, section 2, 1, I believe, to allow town council to consider planning commission's failure to make a timely recommendation as a negative recommendation, and to retrieve untimely orders from the planning commission. Now, during the town's discussion, they mentioned different months, and I'll tell you what they are. So in the ordinance, it says, they started with these numbers, but then they had a discussion and said they didn't want to change them. For a land use regulation proposed by the town council and referred to the planning commission to create and draft the ordinance no more than 4 months from the date of referral from the town council. And for a land, and I believe, and once again, I have to go back and re-listen, but in my notes, this is what I have. That was changed to 6 months. And for a land use regulation first proposed and drafted by the town council and referred to the planning commission for action in fully drafted form, then timely means no more than 2 months from the date of referral from the town council unless otherwise stated in the referral. And that number, they talk about making 3 months.
Okay, it was just drafted. Requesting action. Fully drafted.
And then
Date
there's
of
referral
referral, date of referral,
is the date the town council meeting on which the motion was made.
which would be after our regular meeting.
Correct.
So to say 2 months means we would only have one meeting. Right? Which to act.
I think to,
So,
At your current schedule, you'd have a work meeting and a meeting.
one work meeting, one regular meeting.
well, it's 2 months from the date of recommendation. So 2 months from their date of recommendation, that's the, easy way to figure that out. I think it would be 2, but I'm going to
You know,
physically look at it. So they had their meeting last night. And then we have a work meeting. And that means it would have to go up for public hearing right away.
Yeah. Which I guess that part's okay, but. I don't really mind the way they have it, because we can vote however we want on it, and if we want to vote no, but if you change it to say this, then it would be a yes, we can do that, you know? I don't know, but sometimes, yeah, sometimes it makes sense for us to actually make the changes to something that they sent us, I guess. Have we done that before? We're doing it right now.
Well, I think that's what I recall, speaking about, so when I previewed this and was rereading all the ordinances, for tonight, I'm like,
Well, if they agree to different numbers, then
we can just send it back with that recommendation. You know,
Yes.
if that's what the commission wants to
Yes.
do.
so 6 months and 3 instead of 4 and 2.
3 and 6, yeah, 6 and 3 instead of 4 and 2.
You don't think 4 and 2 is enough time? It's like 2 is not enough time, but
I think 4 is enough time.
I think
I-
it should, I think it should be general.
If we have to draft it though, that sometimes takes a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
It depends on, some ordinances can take a day.
Some ordinances can take a year.
Yeah.
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 Karen?
I think typically 4 and 2 and 4 is plenty enough time. I think that there should be a clause in there that we could officially request an extension on that time that they may or that they can or not grant. But I think a clause in there that would allow for an extension, an approved extension, is appropriate. For most ordinances, the town gives us and asks us to draft. I think 4 months is plenty. And for all ordinances that they've drafted themselves and they just want us to look at and give feedback on, I think 2 months is plenty. If I'm not mistaken, town council meeting is after planning and zoning. So we would have 2 regular meetings and 2 regular meetings and 2 work meetings to work on and discuss any ordinance that was pre-drafted. And I think that's plenty enough time.
Are you looking at the calendar? Okay, because I thought there would only be 1 regular in there. and
Well,
2 work.
because our meeting is before their meeting, so the time wouldn't be up, but
Oh,
I don't know that they're gonna be that picky initial about it.
I'm okay with 2 months, I'm okay with 3. And the other one, I think 4 with an extension ability, that would be okay, but not without. Because sometimes it has to go through the attorney, it has to go through
And they don't always get
the
back to it.
engineer, and yeah,
Correct.
and sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes,
If we are writing ordinance, there is no such limit. These are ordinances that come from,
oh, that they've asked us to draft,
one is they draft,
that one, yeah, I'm okay with 2 months.
and then the second one is we draft.
Right. And that's what I'm talking about is 4, I'd be okay with 4 with an ability to have an extension.
Okay, we can make that motion.
Oh, shall I make that motion?
We're not making motions.
Oh, that's right.
We're discussing.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
We could even write something that would
I made a note,
give us the
you know, and then,
ability to ask for an extension.
all right, Karen, do you have any other comments on that?
No,
Thank you. And then, this next item is just, awareness. And Lee, do you want to explain, this is the water study, and it's in our folders.
There's a big
A cons-
pamphlet about the Conservancy District's desires for changes to regulations and things in each of the towns that are in the regional water agreement. And It's going, they have asked that the council amend the general plan by their October meeting.
They have to adopt this water conservation plan by October. The council does.
Is that what it just said?
And, yeah,
But to amend a general plan takes more than just one meeting. And it takes a recommendation from us, it takes a public hearing, it takes a bunch of stuff. So I was gonna propose that we simply add this paragraph, no, this sentence to the water use and conservation element in our draft general plan. Because I assume we're going to have a public hearing on that before the end of the year. Maybe not October, no, probably November, I don't know when, but anyway.
for this,
It's upcoming.
it's gonna be a lot of items. Cause it has to be in October. It has to be adopted by the end of October.
I know, that's what I'm saying, they have to adopt. But what came with that is a resolution, which
Yes.
you can't change the general plan with a resolution. I don't
But
think.
couldn't we use these whereases and
We could make something up, I'm just
they
suggesting
just have one section under
that we might ask
It's Jake.
the mayor or ask the attorney or ask the Water Conservancy District if we just add it to our draft that we are
I know.
about to put through the process.
Yeah.
Maybe they would go for that, and what I wrote was, in order to comply with Virgin's agreement with the district, the town council shall periodically adopt by resolution its current required conservation rules designed to encourage a reduction in water use by town users. And because those rules, they've already changed, they came out with some in 22, they've changed them in 23. I don't know if there's new ones now, but we don't wanna have to go through a general plan amendment every time they do that, so.
And in our new general plan, we do have a water use and conservation element.
And that's where this,
And that's, and so Lee drafted a thing, Cameron, you can't see it. It's just one, it's in SharePoint. And she added, some language that's underlined. It says, in order to comply, what she just said, you know, and that way it's, appropriate to a general plan because it's a guideline.
right, and it's,
So
it
who do
won't
you
matter
think-
if they change,
Who do we need to run this by?
probably the mayor. She'll know whether, she'll either say that won't work, or as I said, originally she told me we didn't need to even deal with this at all, but because, you know, they didn't really give us enough time for.
So I just don't, yeah,
It seems silly to amend our old one, you know?
yeah, I'm not going to put this on hearing at this time. I still have a few days.
Do you want
we
me
need
to
to
try
make
to
sure
track down if it's okay to do it this way?
Do you want to do that?
I will
Okay,
give myself that
all
job.
right. I'll put that down in my notes. Cameron, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So I'm just gonna push back a little bit on Lee. All it takes to amend the general plan is a public hearing and a recommendation and a vote by the council. That's all it takes to amend the general plan. If this is what the Water Conservancy's wants done, it's easy to do that by the end of October. It gets public hearing next month.
Do not,
We make a recommendation
do we
and
need an ordinance?
council votes on it.
I think we need an ordinance though, so we have to write it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be
Have
an
to run
ordinance form, but that just requires some whereases and the signature at
Yes.
the bottom.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
But we need all their rules too, written into it, and then we'll be stuck with them, whether, even if they change them in the future.
What rules?
I
Their
think what
water
the-
conservation rules.
No, I was thinking that we would, take the resolution. I don't know how much we'd have to tweak the resolution. Turn it into a ordinance and have as a section this, what you wrote.
Okay,
And
Yeah.
that's it.
I think that would be fine.
And if you could run that by the mayor,
Okay,
I think that's what you're saying, Cameron.
I think what the Water Conservancy District wants is they want it they want that language in our general plan, and when they change it, they want us to update our general plan. That's what the Water Conservancy is asking for. So I don't think there's any reason to hold off if that's what they want. I don't think anyone's opposed to the Water Conservancy's, I mean, opposed or not, it's kind of what it is now.
Right.
This plan is,
So if we had a hearing and voted on our October meeting, what is their? I mean, if it worst case scenario, they could have a special meeting to approve it, I guess.
no, they could, they knew we were doing this and knew it was their work meetings after our hearing. So they could discuss it and vote on it on the next week. It could be done.
So their regular meeting
It is after ours.
is after our regular, okay.
They're both
So
the
then
work meeting and the regular meeting was after ours. That would be. So if you could touch base with that, then I'd be more than happy to help you with the setup of that ordinance for now. All right. That leads us to looking at the open space amendment. And I wish Larry were here because the ATVs would not be a question as long as they're currently allowed in those sections of BLM. But if those sections were sold, then somebody else would own it and it would be up to the new owner,
Yes.
right? So, but if they're currently BLM, then they should be just fine. But I would caution them to make sure it's a section of BLM that allows ATVs, because they are allowed in some sections and not in others.
Right.
All right, so I know he had a question and I told him to reach out to me when he got back and that you talk. So, do you want to go over these changes? Or I went over these changes in our regular meeting. But do you want to clarify
We did,
them
but-
again?
But the thing we didn't address at all is the prohibited uses, and
Yeah,
that is just me plopping in a bunch that I collected from various towns, and so, yeah.
next week, that.
So can I, is it
Go ahead.
now a good time?
Yep.
I think to alleviate his concerns, all you need to put in there is, at the top, just put that these regulations apply only to private properties designated as open space, and not to public lands until such time as the public lands are sold, or until such time as the public lands become private.
That's necessary. What would that avoid? What problem would that avoid?
Well, that was
Larry.
the concern expressed at Larry's concern that was expressed last meeting, right? Was the ability to ride 4x4s, to ride trails on ATVs or motorcycles on public lands. And so that seemed like a simple solution to me, unless you want to open up private lands to ATV trails too. I mean, I guess you could do that, but to address Larry's concern, that's what I thought was the easiest way to address his concern.
So if we look under 3604 location. That may be a place to add that clarification. If you read it, tell me what you think, Lee.
All public lands under the administration of BLM or the state of Utah as of the date of adoption chapter, as well as any property subsequently rezoned to that designation. But I guess the worry is that there are some current uses that wouldn't be legal. But I guess we could make a statement to
Because as I read
the
this,
non-conforming
if
uses.
I read this, it would tell me that even in the Bureau of Land Management plans,
Yeah,
there would be outline. And think of it in reverse, like if we had some national forest lands within our town boundaries and we wanted to allow ATVs to go there and they weren't allowed there, we couldn't do that. So I think as long as it's BLM land,
there
I
are,
mean, you can disagree, but that's what I was thinking.
yes, it's not a black and white situation. It isn't that their rules over, are over ours because they, in many cases, respect the underlying zoning. And so, I don't see the harm, but I can understand why you want to protect existing uses. And so we could make a statement to that, which we have with some other ordinances that we passed.
I don't know, I'd like to do that. To add it, like if it's current use, prior to then it continues until the land is sold. And that applies to the BLM land, because that would be true of any use, once it's sold, you're right?
Right, exactly.
I guess the only concern with that would be as I think about it, the only concern with that would be, hey, you've got this section of BLM. Right now, that section of BLM has multiple uses. The BLM wants to sell it because it's too close to town, or it's getting hard for them to regulate. And so they want to sell that. But one of the uses on that section of land is access to an ATV trail that continues beyond that land. So I guess and then you sold it and now ATVs are not allowed to cross it. That would probably be a concern of Larry's, as far as keeping that access open, keeping that ATV trail open. And if, even if the property owner wanted to, this law would say no. So, I mean, maybe you want to put a grandfathering of ATV trails even after, a property is sold.
Kent, what are your thoughts?
Well, my first thought is if, I think, around the BMX park as an example. And I kind of think you might have related that, Cameron, with regards to there's a current trail, a current road that ATVers use across, that BLM section south of the BMX park. And it takes them out into open lands beyond in the BLM. And if the BLM decides that they're gonna sell that property to a developer who wants to put in homes and streets and stuff like that, I think that it's a decision that would be made by the landowner, in this case, the BLM who owns the land beyond would have to decide if they're okay with the new landowner wanting to put some kind of access through the property or not wanting to put access through the property. Would be up to that new landowner and maybe the town, if the town wants to be involved. I've seen the BLM and developers work those kinds of things out. And say, okay, we'll have a street there and access into the BLM from the development. Because the developer wants to, but maybe the developer doesn't want to. And the developer is going to put in a very private senior living community, or a some kind of a commercial development that it's not acceptable to to the type of development that they're proposing. So I think it's a negotiation that involves the town, the landowner, and the BLM. Deciding whether or not they can work something out that's acceptable for everyone. How would we get involved in that?
There's also a decision to be made before that, which is whether or not the BLM should convert the land to private use. And at that point, there will be, hopefully, the people who are using the land for trails or whatever will speak up and discourage them from doing so. So, it doesn't help the town to suddenly acquire a bunch more land than it used to have, and that made all its infrastructure plans based on, and et cetera, and to suddenly have to service, many more acres of land. So,
I like the compromise of clarifying language in the location section.
I've written here.
So,
added-
may I-
Go ahead.
May I? Sorry. So I think Kent is almost there, right? I think Kent is almost there. But we're missing a key point with this ordinance, right? So yes, Kent is right. If the BLM sells a tract of land, they're selling it for housing, and that's why they're selling it, because they don't want it, but they want it to be housing. So they sell it, a developer buys it, they come in, they're gonna have to rezone it into a residential zone, not open space. So then they rezone, or may or may not get their rezone, whatever. But they rezone, and then they put in their development, and they have to decide whether they're gonna keep that access to BLM. And which could be negotiated before the sale, right? Could be negotiated before the sale, and likely will be, maybe. But this ordinance doesn't address that at all. Like, this ordinance has no applicability to that scenario. This ordinance is if it stays open space.
Correct.
So if the BLM sells a property and the buyer buys it and says, I'm buying this to keep it open space, I'm not adding any new infrastructure, I'm not adding any new houses to bother people, I'm not doing anything with it, I'm just leaving it open space. But now I'm going to shut everything down. I don't want anyone to cross it. Right? That's kind of their decision. But what if they buy it and they say, hey, look, I'm a recreationist. I want to leave this trail open for ATVs to go through this corner or this parcel of my property to access the rest of these trees beyond, the rest of these trails beyond. He would now be prohibited from doing that by this rule. Prohibited from doing that, because you can't have an ATV riding trail.
Because you can't, what? Sorry.
Because
Because-
ATVs are prohibited use.
Oh,
Because UTVs and ATVs are prohibited use. And so now if someone says, hey, I'm buying this, I'm going to leave it as open space, I want to leave it just like it is, but let the people drive through it, but I'm no more camping. But if you want to drive through it to access all these trails, go for it. Well, now he can't do that because ATVs are prohibited.
right. So they would want to rezone. I see. Or where?
So on the list of prohibited uses, it is item, what is that? T.
T. Oh, yeah. I mean, is that what, do we want to have a use of that there? Or,
I mean, that's the whole point of the discussion, is looking at these prohibited items and having yay, nay, put it somewhere else. It could be a conditional use.
well, that would mean we would have to approve it. So an ATV racetrack next to BLM,
Not racetrack, just
it says track.
Well, that says trash.
Tracks, parks, and.
Well, the other thing is trails for public recreation.
Yeah,
It doesn't say what kind of trails, because you can have an ATV trail.
right, it doesn't.
So could a trail still be
A
allowed?
trail is one thing, yeah, but a park, a motorcycle.
Does that make
park-
sense to you, Karen?
I'm just gonna have to push back a little bit. I know it says trails for public recreation, but then when you go down and you specifically prohibit ATVs or UTVs,
Where is
No,
that?
no, it says ATV tracks and parks.
Motorcycle and ATV tracks and parks
parks.
are prohibited, listen.
Well.
I think
one thing-
I think to clarify that, I think to clarify that, I think to clarify that up in the trails for public use, I think you list ATVs as one of the permissible types of trails permitted there. And then it would be clarified.
ATV
There would-
is a four-wheel vehicle generally, right? Why can't we just talk about roads and trails? Because I don't want an ATV going on a trail that I hike all the time.
Yeah,
Or that I maybe even bike with my mountain bike. That's not a trail for an ATV. Again, I don't know,
Well, I think that's why those are under conditional uses.
I
Yeah.
don't know that we can even worry about that kind of stuff.
I think they could be allowed as the ordinance stands as a conditional use.
yeah.
For the very reason that Kent just expressed.
Well, that's why what
At this,
exists currently, in the BLM as to what they allow. And we've said that's what we, as long as it stays BLM, we don't have to say about it. If they sell it, Cameron's concerned about, okay, do we need to require that access to the BLM's open AT&T trails or passenger bicycle trails? Do they need to do, I don't think I guess we can set an ordinance to say yay or nay. I think it has to be something that the town and a developer decide.
But
If
what
the
is,
developer
right.
wants it, then the town's probably gonna say, it's been there before, go ahead, you can keep doing
But
it.
Kent, if it's a developer, if they're gonna rezone and this won't apply. This is only for the open space.
Well, I have written here, what if we added to permitted uses, legal uses in existence at passage of this ordinance? Is that a permitted use? That way we wouldn't have to call out anything in particular.
Did you hear that, Karen?
that's fine. I think that's fine.
Okay. Any other
So
comment? Oh, this, look at
just
the
to
prohibited uses.
Just to clarify to Kent, my concern is not that someone's going to get it and close it. I think that's a discussion for another time. My concern that I'm just kind of expressing for Larry here, because I'm really not a UTVer, but my concern that I'm expressing for Larry here is, hey, if they want to keep the ATV trail that's been there open, they should be able to keep it open if they want. We shouldn't be prohibiting them from keeping it open.
Well, that's what this would do,
Yeah.
saying that's, if it's in existence when we pass this ordinance, then it's legal, it's permitted.
I would say if it's legally existing at the time of sale, right? So not necessarily the time of this ordinance, because BLM might change their rules, right?
Yeah.
They might change their rules, they might change their trail system. So I would say legally existing at time of sale.
All right. Thank you for that discussion. And look at those prohibited uses. Do you need, you still have my ordinance, right? It goes on to the next page. Oh, you can do it. I can look at this. Just give me that one back. Did you read them? You're good with them all?
No, I haven't.
So I have, just tell me when you have a minute for me. Sorry, so I don't keep interrupting.
Can I interject here that, I was talking to our chair, Darlene, a little while ago, a few days ago, about how somebody on Zoom can get the attention of the chair. And, she said that it will work for somebody to raise their hand. Isn't there a button where you can raise your hand?
That would, if Crystal can.
And then Crystal could tell her that.
I don't have a raise the hand button on my phone right now.
It all depends, if he's on his phone, he doesn't have
Yeah.
that, so it depends, if they're on a computer, then they do, but if he's on something smaller device, then he doesn't have that,
Okay.
so it depends on what kind of device he's on.
Well, I
frustrating.
might start bringing a second device so I can see the Zoom, so I too can see a hand up.
Yeah, well, it's a, depends on what kind of device they're on,
Maybe
so.
there should just be a signal like a knock, knock, knock.
Well, anyway,
A bell ringing?
Yeah,
has everyone had a chance to look at the? And this list comes because we were told you should have a bus list of prohibited uses.
And so we're up to EE.
I don't imagine I would want any of these things
In open,
in the open space.
yeah, I agree.
And going up to EE, because we will add to this one like we are adding to the other ordinances, anything not listed.
Right, that, it already says that,
It does?
yeah, on top of 4609. In fact, I added, you might wanna look at that. Because
You added, what?
I've added, any use not listed as permitted or conditional is deemed prohibited unless declared similar to a listed use by the town attorney or the director of community development. Which I
Where is
believe
that?
legally we have to allow. It's line 86. Section 3609 prohibited use.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Cameron, go ahead.
Okay, so the only other concern I had with this was making single family residence conditional. I just don't see the point in that. It's open space, you know. I think a single family residence should be permitted in open space.
We could move this entire sec 3608D up to 3606C.
I'd be okay with that compromise. We have to put, the language about size in the ordinance.
We should probably say to the standards of rural residential zone.
Okay. It just seems like if you, every time you mention a single family home, that should be referenced in that chapter. I know it is not the others.
Oh, it already says line 127, a single family dwelling in this zone is subject to the regulations and requirements of the rural residential zone, so.
Okay.
Have that.
Modified, okay, that's right, sorry. Kent, do you have any comments on that before we move on?
No.
Okay. That one will go up for a vote, with those changes. Pretty minor.
I can fix that.
And then the next two are kind of together. Those are the village overlay and multifamily. Well. Lee, I know you've made some changes in this. Would you like to go over those?
Sure. Okay, this ordinance has been changed many times. I've said this many times, but I will, I'm gonna talk about the process. I mean, originally, it's had various names. It's been village overlay for quite a while. Originally, it was, only supposed to fulfill Riker's, suggestion that it has to be in an overlay zone, so it was a way of putting two-family dwellings in to commercial zones. Since then,
When we say two-family dwelling, we're talking about duplex.
duplex, yeah, to me, a duplex is one on top of the other, so it doesn't seem to mean that to people out here, but that's where it was where I came from.
Where did you go on?
The East Coast, New Jersey.
Me, it's not yours.
Yeah, okay. Understand.
But anyway, then, we made a bunch of changes during our discussions and meeting. I made a bunch of changes based on our discussions and meeting. The most recent change was because, we learned that it's possible that, there might be commercial uses or commercial zone going almost 900 feet into residential areas in one particular case. So people were upset at the idea that some of these, what I was trying to come up with, the low impact commercial uses, but that some of these just didn't belong next to a single family dwelling. So this now says that there are two different, this is something that you have to figure out when you look at the overlay, and that is whether or not your parcel contacts residential, a residential zone that has been developed or one that has not been developed. If it's been developed, then the only uses that would be allowed there would be, residential uses, i.e., two-family dwellings, half-size single-family dwellings on smaller lots. The idea being to encourage everybody wants to build a monster house, but if we could figure out a way, we're not sure that Ash Creek and everybody will go along with this, that if we allow a half-size lot with a house that has half the impact of what is considered to be the average ERU, then we would have smaller houses, smaller lots, and something more affordable. So that use, the two-family dwelling and the live work under certain circumstances. Certain businesses might not work very well there, but quite a few of them, I believe, would. So that's what would be allowed in that area. Otherwise, all the uses that are listed in the Virgin overlay, village overlay, commercial, would be available. And those have not changed, I guess. Oh, but a bunch more prohibited uses. I can't remember if they were there or not last time, because we're supposed to now add them to everything, all the, so.
At the direction of the town attorney.
Yes.
What is it?
An equivalent residential unit. So, and mainly we're concerned now, no longer with the water hookup so much as the septic impact. And we're going to have, I understand, the groundwater study in October,
October,
yeah. So we will know what our minimum lot size is. So this allows an automatic overlay, it allows half acre lots. And uses that are,
and it will allow the Palmers to use all of that.
yes,
And
and Palmer, rezone.
you know, where they said there would be a second development agreement.
Yes.
It would affect that because of the distance.
Down below the,
So basically on the 400 feet, it would be
Just
all,
this lot here, the one that's just went up for sale opposite the gas station, is 378 feet deep, so it's just a 22 feet beyond that. And then all this, because this is, residences here, and these are all, and that's.
so you're talking about what they might do down here.
No, here,
So they announced they're doing,
so let me draw. So this is still residential. This is about 400 feet off the highway, so that's full commercial. Okay? This remaining section would be, it would allow them to do, the village overlay there.
and on most of it, they would be doing housing. Either two-family dwellings, half-size, single-family dwellings, or live work dwellings.
Does that make sense to you? Okay. Cameron, thoughts? Oh, should we let Cameron go over his version?
Yes.
Okay, Cameron, do you want to explain your version to us, please?
Yeah, so my version just goes back to the original thing that we talked about at the beginning of this whole process, which was to allow two-family housing inside the commercial zone. That's all it was. I took the recommendations and suggestions that had been put out in other drafts of the ordinance to try to accommodate people's concerns like size and impact. I tried to add some of those things in there for that purpose, but no one has given me or shown me any evidence that we cannot simply add two-family dwellings to a commercial area. No one. I've asked before. No one has given that to me. Riker hasn't given it to me. No one else has given it to me. So I still believe that we should simply go back to adding multi-family housing or two-family housing as a permitted use in commercial zone. I I don't agree with the overlay part, like we're calling it village commercial overlay, yet in many instances we're completely we're disallowing almost every commercial use, yet we're calling it a village commercial overlay. If we want to make an area, a buffer between commercial an existing residential and we want that to be higher density housing, then we should just do that. We should just convert our current residential zone, rewrite it so that it allows for it between commercial and rural residential, and just be done with it and not call it village commercial overlay.
I have to say that I would hate for all of our, commercial land along the highway to be housing. I think that would be, we would be missing out on some good things with that. I think it's nice to have it around the edges, commercial. And, so I still like Riker's idea.
I prefer the village overlay for a couple reasons. One being, I do think this, I think if we're looking at affordable housing, and I think 4,800, it's unclear, is that per unit or combined units?
That would be the
Well-
build, that would be the building, the livable space, that would be the building. So
Would it-
if you look
would it
at,
be-
if you look,
My
if
question,
you,
my
go
question
ahead.
is that for both duplexes together or for each one?
Again, it's the building, it's one building. It's a multifamily dwelling, it's one building, so it'd be 4,800 per building.
Then it would have 2 units.
Two
Am I
units
right?
of 2,400 square feet max.
I understand.
I also find that a little bit larger than what I would think would be affordable.
Well,
I like the size, I'm worried that there is no lot standards described. There is, no limit to how many could be put, no density description. I like the definition. We do currently have a definition of two-family dwelling in our code, but I like this one better. So whichever way we go, I would like to include that definition. Thank you for the clarification on the size. I would actually like to incorporate that size into because if I recall, wasn't that our original number in the village overlay? What, 2,400 square feet? What do we have? Because
I think
from our discussions, we actually increased it
we did increase it.
to 4,000, so that would be 2,000 feet.
Yeah,
Okay.
and 2,000 per, I think that,
Yeah.
that's plenty of house for family.
now a good time?
I know, one more thing, I know Larry had a concern with the business license. Okay,
You had a concern with,
requiring a business license.
And then, didn't you look that up and find that,
It's about 50-50.
that, yeah, some towns do, some towns don't?
Kent did that, yes. Go ahead. Chairman,
Okay, I'm gonna push back on a couple things here. The price of rent difference between a 3-bedroom, 2,000 square foot apartment or house compared to a 2,400 3-bedroom square foot apartment or house is So as far as affordability, if you want it to be affordable, you're gonna have to drastically drop that square footage, because dropping it simply to 4,000 is not achieving any goals of
Well,
affordability.
We raised it from our 3,000.
Yeah, I thought that 3,000 total was better, but we talked about it in the meeting and that.
Tom, what is the square footage on your proposed duplex?
My duplex, each unit is 1,050 feet.
Yeah, so that would fit within that.
Yeah,
I would suggest we go back to 3,000 then, if that's a constraint.
I would be happier with that.
Second, I would oppose that, by the way, because I think you let them decide. Because some people are going to want larger because they're going to cater to families, and some people are going to go smaller and cater to couples. So I think you have to allow for both provisions. The rent for a 2,400 square foot, 3-bedroom apartment or home is fairly affordable for families. You're looking at about $2,000 to $2,400 a month for that. That's what they're getting in Cedar, well, in the nice areas of Cedar, and that's what they're getting all over St. George, which families can make work. So I would oppose that. Now, you mentioned there's no density restrictions and all that. All that density restrictions, setback requirements, all that is already addressed within the commercial zone. Again, I'm not trying to make a single standard for duplexes or for multifamily housing. I am creating an ordinance that specifically allows it within the commercial zone, which has a few specific requirements additional to what's already listed in the zone. So density is already covered in the zone. Setbacks are already recovered within the zone. Open space is also covered within the zone. Yeah.
Any other discussion on either of these? No. All right, thank you. So, what do you all think of, similar to what we did with the subdivision ordinance? We kind of made it kind of be plan.
Well, they're so different.
Yeah, I just put them both up, you know?
Yeah.
I would imagine we don't send one on to council with the recommendation for approval. People know, but we can send both on to them. Some type of recommendation, so I'll put both of those up for public hearing. Lee, I would like to recommend, that you in the village overlay, update our definition. I think this is basically some language you wrote. I've already read this there somewhere in the ordinance, but I like the ordinance, that definition a lot.
Okay, I don't remember what the one in the ordinance says, but yeah, I already read it.
You know, well, it's language, something I read in the village overlay language. She didn't say this is a definition, and I liked that Cameron, added a clear definition, because we do need to update that, I think. Any other items that any, commissioner would like to discuss at this time?
I do, I started a list.
Oh. And is it in SharePoint?
No, but you can have that.
Just the prohibited.
Yeah, it's just a list of uses that are prohibited in all zones, some that are prohibited in some zones, and then consider where some others should be, if at all. So I just thought it would be good for everybody to start kind of brainstorming about it.
Can you drop that sheet into
I can,
in process?
in process.
And Kent, you can write it down. That'd be fine. And, actually, Crystal, I pretty much got our, because to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't see anything that town council was sending to us last night, correct? And we just had that one other item, potential, correct? So I should be able to get this to you in a timely fashion, even though I won't be in town.
That's. You're waiting on that one that I talked to you earlier about.
Yeah, we'll work on all that. Well, thank you, everyone. And, I am going to close this meeting at 7:20.
Thanks, Cameron.